Welcome to the Oceania Regional for the last major event of 2024. We have a dozen, count them up, 12 players for the event, and they are not messing around. I've already looked through 9 of the deck lists, and these are some pretty serious competitive decks. These are not messing around. These are not like I just bought a Clash deck and I upgraded it a little bit. These are like easily could have top cut at Atlanta. Like I think we're going to see some very, very good competition.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I don't think there's a repeat character. I haven't seen one, skimming through the list. If there is, I would have to assume it's a Rodan. I think there might have been 2, but that would be pretty cool, in and of itself. If there's 12 completely distinct characters throughout the event, that would be very, very awesome, and it would kind of stand to be like its own top cut almost at that point, right? I'm very, very excited to see what these players bring to the table, and I think most importantly, considering the size of the event and the fact that there's so many different characters, I think these games are going to be very matchup dependent today.
Yeah, we're seeing. I saw a Casino Irwin. We've got a Godzilla, a Rodan, a Mikasa, a Ymir, a younger Toguro still hanging around with some upgrades. A Bakugo 4, a Smiling Titan. It's like every single character that top cut Atlanta. We've got one next.
Yeah, the Bakugo 4 is definitely one of the most interesting decks on the in the event. That's a character that I've been paying attention to pretty much since last format, and it seems well positioned in the Attack on Titan world, right? Where a 6-hander who likes to run damage reduction, who has a big health total, and is very, very good at converting that unused defense into massive piles of damage to punish the opponent, combined with the anti-hand strategies that we've seen be dominant, through tri-gravity beams and things like that in the past. So that seems like a character that's very similar to Irwin Smith, just sort of waiting to have like an incredibly deep run, and this might be the tournament for it.
Yeah, Irwin gives the speed to get through Rodan, but Bakugo can get the discard, especially on turn 2 or turn 3 when Rodan doesn't have their stage sufficiently established, and so they're having to use a lot of cards in their hand to build up their stage. But now that the hand discard just hits them really hard, so if Bakugo draws hot, even in a control matchup, they can take you down early.
Yeah, it's a lot of different stuff. We've got Smiling, we've got Godzilla, we've got Rodan, we've got Mikasa is making an appearance. Amajiki hasn't gone anywhere. There's a King Ghidorah, of course. So there's a lot of cool and interesting stuff. And over the course of 4 rounds, we're going to be able to bring you most of these decks, most of these players. So I'm very, very excited. I'm just about ready to jump into the action, but I want to get your predictions before we get started. From the decks you've seen, from the characters you've seen, who do you think is going to take it all, David?
Okay, looking at it all, I'm going to make a bold prediction, and I'm going to say that Risky Encounter is going to win the Oceania Regional. No, okay.
That is
so let's see.
The coward's way out, top to bottom.
I see that Young, second place in Worlds, is coming back. We have Adrian is back. We got Max. We're seeing some players that I recognize here that I know are going to be solid. Okay, if I have to make a bold prediction, I'm going to say that the Godzilla is going to win it all with this 4X Determined Advance style deck. I think Determined Advance is a very, very slept on card. It's one that I put in my top 10, but then hasn't seen a lot of play so far. But in characters like Godzilla and Bert, it's very, very strong. So that's going to be my bold prediction, is that Godzilla, which I think wasn't Godzilla second place in Oceania last season? This season, I think he's actually going to take it down. I think the Godzilla lost to Spike or not Spike, Ochako Ford. Maybe I'm thinking of season 1. I'm all
I
over
think
the
you're
place.
thinking of season 1. Yeah, there was the Ochako that everyone said was just worst endeavor, and it won the event. That was my favorite takeaway because I was talking up the Ochako deck a whole lot. I know Mitchell Cimino on the grind with unfun stuff was playing just an absolutely nasty Ochako deck, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. All the talk about how you should just play Earth Endeavor instead of Earth Ochako and things like that. And it ended up winning the Oceania Regional. So I thought that was kind of like a nice comeuppance for all the people who didn't understand that it's really water Ochako that you have to worry about most of the time.
But it was really Spike. Let's be real. It was really Spike that carried.
It was a really good deck. It was a really good deck with a really good sideboard. My spicy take is I'm cheering for this Amajiki deck. I think Amajiki is a super nasty deck. It's kind of incredible what Amajiki gets away with once we get into the late game. And this Amajiki deck, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to give away any information because there might be Oceania players listening. They might be watching on their phone. So I don't want to give away any of the spice. But it's got a couple of different things going on. It's a pretty straightforward deck. And I think Amajiki is one of them, I'm not going to say slept on or underrated, but he's a character who has definitely suffered from new toy syndrome. Mm-hmm. It took one set of us not getting any face-up momentum cards for everyone to stop playing Amajiki, even though this character is absolutely disgusting, and there's so many great things to do with momentum, and nobody is playing Waylay. So you are safe to play Amajiki.
Waylay is one of those cards that I'm just 1xing main board in every symbol and every character on order. It's like, well, I'll throw one in there and I'll throw a couple more on the side. I think I just reloaded my screen over here so I can see all the deck lists. I seriously think we have 12 players where every single deck list is competitive and every single one is on a different character. Because I see like Ouyang is bringing back Overhaul again. We got second place in the world with Overhaul. I'm seeing a Ryukyu. You saw the Amajiki. Yeah, I think we are having 12 one-of characters, and every single one is competitive. It's going to be just a crazy 4 rounds here.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very exciting. Again, like the biggest thing is we've got variety. I know people love to see different things on stream. People always want to see a new take on a character that doesn't get a lot of love. So that's going to be probably the most exciting takeaway from this event this weekend is just all the different decks that you can be playing, right? All the different decks that, like you said, feel good, look good. And I'm hoping that they all perform because the biggest sadness when I cast these events, when I watch these events, is when you've got a deck that doesn't get to do its thing, right? It never gets out of the starting block. It probably doesn't draw the right foundations. You get a bad build, things like that. We see a lot of times it happens to the slower, more control-y decks. If Rodan gets a 3 build out and is fighting a Toga, all those cards are going to be committed on the first attack 90% of the time, and the game becomes very black and white. So I want to see Amajiki get their stage out. I want to see Smiling Titans draw the impactful cards. I want to see the Mikasas have their, answer on whichever symbol they're running, because Mikasa is probably underrated after the errata, but she's got 2 symbols with 2 of the best defensive answers for the hyper-aggressive deck. So if it's fire, it has Barrier Shield, and if it's air, it has Cape of No Return and technically Decoy Duplicate, though I'm not expecting anyone to be running Decoy, especially after Atlanta had like no copies and top cuts. But, all of these decks have an absolutely great shot at taking down this whole event. So I'm very excited to get into the action.
Yeah, and the deck that I most want to see round 1, and I just requested that we put it up, is Mikasa, because I want to see if post-errata Mikasa can make some noise, especially in a star-studded field like this, where there is not going to be a single easy round for all of today. There's going to be no gimme rounds. Everything is going to be fought for very quite difficult. Tam is in chat saying, if anyone asks you where is it, just don't answer. Um, where is what? I mean, risky encounter. It's in the discard pile. It's always in the discard pile. We can form it out of there. That's what I'm excited to see. Is where is risky encounter?
That's that's probably the most commonly asked question in this format. Is asking your rival, "Hey, how many riskies are in your discard pile? How many are we looking at? How many combined firepowers are we sitting on? If it's not risky, we're asking how many combined firepowers are you sitting on?" And as far as this tournament goes, there's not a ton signed up. I would say less than you would expect. And not every deck that's on a combined firepower symbol is married to that strategy. So a lot of the rhetoric from Atlanta, and my initial impression too, which I've kind of come around on, was, I was surprised at how many characters that could play combined firepower were just playing it with like minimal synergy and things like that. It was really kind of interesting that it was good enough to just kind of play by itself almost, and just have an aggressive deck with 6 actions and 5 assets and 21 attacks, and saying, okay, well, a good half of my deck is bonus damage. And if I have 4 copies of 1 foundation for +2 damage, that's a whole nother hit, right? So I think this time we're seeing a little more restraint as far as the combined firepowers go. But you're definitely going to see a lot of risky encounters.
Yeah, and that's one of the other purposes of firepower, is just put risky in your discard.
Yeah,
put risky in your discard so that you can form up more 3 difficulty 20 damage attacks.
Yeah, and I think it'll be really interesting. I think there is a world where we evolve into a place where Smiling Titans play risky as well. Smiling Titan is very good at committing a bunch of foundations. Having 3 committed foundations to destroy for the effect is not a bad thing. And given the 6-hand size aggro nature, trying to break down walls, having that extra attack, and it'll still be for like 10 damage, right? Smiling will still give it +1/+1. It'll have stun 1, and it'll still be for buckets of damage. So that's what I think the next evolution of this format looks like, or at least that's when risky will really be an obvious problem to me, is when you start seeing it on every single character that has a symbol with it. But right now, we're still not even seeing that as necessarily true.
Although I think we are in this event. Maybe not Smiling.
No, not this. That's what I'm saying. Once the Smiling decks evolve to the point where they're willing to play like 1 or 2 risky encounters, that's when I think we've run our course on this format. But we're not at that point yet. Another card we're gonna see a lot of, I'm pretty sure, just from looking at like the symbol spreads and things like that, is we're probably gonna see a lot of combined firepower. We're probably gonna see a lot of invincible body. Those are not combined firepower, barrier shield. We're gonna see a lot of barrier shield to go with the combined firepowers. We do got, I think, 1 fire deck in here on its main symbol, and we are seeing a lot of invincible bodies. So one thing I don't expect to see, unless we're watching Rodan or Irwin, is I don't expect to see a lot of blocking happening. I expect to see a lot of different forms of defense, damage reduction, attack negates, Genkai's guidance, all that good stuff is in full effect here, more so than we saw in Atlanta.
Absolutely. Yeah, the farther away from the United States you get, the less blocking you get.
Yeah, that's true.
And we have some pretty beefy characters that can take some hits.
Yeah, probably the biggest surprise, if I had to say overall, no, at least there's 1 deck that's not been submitted yet. I'm not sure if it looks like it's a duplicate registry, so I don't think we're actually missing one. But there's no Dark Deku. There's no Deku on the move and Deku Quirks Unleashed.
That's interesting. Yeah, we have no Dark Deku, we have no Paul Phoenix, we have no Devil Jin. None of the characters that have been released since Atlanta are being represented today. A couple of the other surprising exclusions is that we don't have a Toga 3. That's very surprising to me.
Yeah, me too.
been a very, very popular character. Got to be one of the top three best users of Risky Encounter. We don't have a Toga 3, and we don't have a pony. I'm not seeing any pony included here today.
Yeah, it's looking very much like Ymir has sort of taken over that pony spot, where I do think Ymir has a big enough offense to overcome a lot of the wall decks. Ymir gets to a point where you absolutely do have to block everything. And if anything gets through, it's for, 14, 15, 16 damage. It's for the vast majority of a seven-hander's life total and things like that. And on the other side, we do have a Mikasa who, depending on which version of pony you're trying to play, which strategy you're trying to overwhelm defensive decks with, we've got both of those play styles represented. We just don't have the character. So
Yeah,
um,
somebody asked in chat, can someone confirm that they actually have the Tekken and Dark Deku stuff? I do know from talking with Carl a couple nights ago that they do have Dark Dekus. They do have Dark Deku
they
product.
do.
And just
Okay.
looking at the deck lists, it doesn't look like product is any hindrance on these lists.
Yeah, that was it was something that people were talking about, how all the regionals will have technically different formats. There'll be new cards added to them, but from what it's looking like, they didn't get the Tekken promos, and I'm not seeing any of the Dark Deku Challenger cards. So it's not going to shake up too much of this event, unfortunately. I think that was something people were a little excited for, because that Dark Deku is pretty insane. There's a lot of ways to build the character. There's a lot of ways to play it. Between the two flip sides, they play pretty differently overall, and both sides are very, very good. And both sides have a lot of support considering the number of symbols it's got. The attuned support for Dark Deku is kind of insane. But I think I think once that character gets fully fleshed into the format, it's gonna be a staple. It's gonna be something that you have to build and plan with in mind. But for this event right now, it's looking like you can ignore one big giant one hit KO moves, which has been the really popular version of Dark Deku, at least, on social media.
Yeah, and the other reason is Deku really thrives in a Smiling Titan meta. We just had an event where Smiling Titan was half of top four in Atlanta, and Deku just is a natural counter to Smiling, taking something speed to zero, or and flashing it, or taking the damage down to one before the block step or before the damage step. Like, it's just kind of a natural counter. So it is surprising here, which it's also surprising that we only have one Smiling Titan today and we don't have more. I honestly would not have been shocked if one third of the 12 players today were Smiling Titan, but instead we just have one. So I think that the storybook outcome today would be another Smiling Titan versus Casino Irwin rematch, and Irwin
Yeah,
wins again. That would be awesome if we just switch regions and have the exact same result.
I wouldn't be too surprised if those two decks make it to the finals. Um, they have two strategies that are just so difficult to beat, and
Mhm.
they both add speed and damage at a rate that is better than just about any other deck, right? Godzilla gives a lot of damage, but he has no speed pump. He's got to find it somewhere else. Ymir gives speed and damage, but that speed is capped at +2, which is what Irwin gives. And the way that they scale damage is very differently. So Ymir might be able to outstat Irwin, but Irwin also ramps resources. So the matchup I'm really excited to see if we get a chance is Ymir versus Irwin, because those two decks have so many similar things about them, that you can like put on a list on paper. But when you watch those two decks play, I doubt you would consider them similar in the slightest.
Mhm. And it looks like we're gonna get your wish with Amajiki here. Um, I believe for round one we have the players just about to get seated, but we're gonna have Mikasa and Amajiki, uh, two seven handers going at it. Amajiki kind of puts more power into his moves, but takes a little longer getting set up. Mikasa, if she checks well, gets to play 10 attacks
Gets to
in a
win.
turn.
Mikasa gets to win if she checks well. Yeah, this is either going to be the slowest match or the fastest match probably today. Amajiki is definitely a character that you don't want to get set up. You don't want to let them get comfortable. They put a stranglehold on the game once they've got enough damage reduction to zero out an attack. Combined with the 7-hand size, there's very, very, very few 7-handers that ever get a damage reduction ability. And almost always it is -1 damage. It is Tokoyami's -1 damage. It is Spike 1 from the old Cowboy Bebop starter decks from Retro. He has -1 damage on him, and that was good enough for 7-handers. So seeing Amajiki get -2 plus your momentum has been, has served him so well in the past. And I'm pretty amazed that we haven't seen more Amajikis like in grand finals and things like that. So very excited to see how he deals with Mikasa's game plan, because I think if you're trying to beat Amajiki, overwhelming him with a lot of small little attacks that are fast and annoying to block is definitely the way to do it, because you've played a lot of Amajiki, David. There is so much regret when you go to block an attack and you check poorly and you haven't used your ones per turn, and you either have to commit Amajiki or you have to take this attack. That is always a pivotal moment in every Amajiki match I've ever played. There's a point where they should have just reduced the damage, because everything's going to be so fast that you have to commit out to block it in the future. And navigating when that moment is the biggest part of playing defense as Amajiki.
Yeah, I remember being on stream in St. Louis. I think you were commentating my match. I was going against, or no, you were not commentating my match. It was Bromley and someone
Barrett?
else. Yeah, Barrett. And I was playing against, here we have our players jumping in. I imagine we'll put the table up on the stream pretty soon. Yeah, I was going up against Amina too.
Oh, I don't know if we lost David or if I'm not here. Looks like David cut out. So we'll get started here pretty soon. David got sent to the Shadow Realm. I think he's back. Are you with it? Oh, he's gone again. All right. David got sent to the Shadow Realm. We will get things sorted here for you. We got the players sitting down and shuffling up. Hopefully we get into the game action real soon here. But we've got for our first matchup Mikasa versus Amajiki. And Mikasa took an errata right before Atlanta, and it dropped her off of a lot of people's radar. And I think that that's to Mikasa's benefit. She doesn't get to play a lot of the really great ramp. She doesn't get to clear cards like Lightning Rod from her card pool anymore. You do have to focus on weapons, but I don't think you have to play exclusively weapons. There's a lot of air cards that can clear the card pool for you. And so it'll be interesting to see if we get a hybrid of different keyworded attacks, or if it's purely just all weapons all the time. So I think this character I think Mikasa took a legitimate hit in power, but I don't think it's enough to completely scrub her from the metagame. And I think that people not playing the anti-Mikasa cards that they were pretty much forced to play in a large amount of before, I think that's going to help Mikasa out. I think people are going to sleep on playing the defense. They're not going to play the easy counters. They're not going to play locking the building. They're not going to play ultra compressed weights, all the different punishments and cancels for cards that leave the card pool. You just don't see them on deck lists. And so this could be a ripe tournament for Mikasa to show up and do a lot of damage. Hey, you're back, David. Hey, you're preaching to the choir, man. Every time I stream.
Yeah, I think I need to put like another access point or something back here in my house because I put my stream room here in the very back of my like it's in the very corner of my house. So I think I need a little bit of help on my internet here. But
You
we
should be
have these
wired
play.
in. Make everyone else jump on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, let's put mine over in here. Um, we've got the players here. They're already starting to build. Yeah, I think you're right on Mikasa. Just having players not prepared for Mikasa is a big deal. And right there on the very first check, we see Sniping Spy, a 2 check, another 2 check. So that's two
Uh-oh.
2 checks and 3 checks. Luckily, it didn't come on the second card, and we still get a build 2.
Yeah, you were talking about some spicy inclusions, and I was talking about how you might not have to be exclusively married to weapon attacks, right? So this kind of tells me that with Sniping Spy's ability to clear the card pool for us rather than using Mikasa's ability, this could be a telltale sign that maybe we're not on only weapon attacks. Maybe we're trying some other things out. And we see a very traditional chaos attempt at a 6 build, didn't get it. So that might come back to haunt us. 20 health, not a lot for Mikasa to chew through. I think we're gambling a little bit here by saying, well, you only have 2 foundations. There's no way you can turn to me with just 2 foundations, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was the play. I don't think they go for that sixth foundation if Mikasa builds 4. Oh, but we're not scared, but we check a 3. And we're going for another 2 check, a different one, Overwatch trigger. So we've already seen 2 checks from the Lady Nagant kit. We're just taking Lady Nagant's attacks and plugging them into Mikasa. So this one says, I can't remember. What does this one say? Do you remember?
If it's the only card in your card pool, you get to draw a card, and then it gets speed equal to, I think it's your rival's hand size minus the cards in hand.
Well, that's a lot of speed.
Yeah, it's very funny because Lady Nagant does have like a semi discard from hand theme, or like her symbols are very, very big on that a lot of the time. And so this is a card that rewards you for ripping out their hand, but also punishes the rival for going down to 2 cards in hand, similar to the way that we saw from turn 1 on Amajiki, right? We tried to play 6 cards. We're only holding 2. We opt to take 6 fat damage. Or no,
4.
we did the
4.
-2.
Yeah, we recognize that this is 9 speed. Although I think that was another one of those situations, like you said earlier. It puts, oh my gosh, we're going for another one.
And that's our turn. Our turn is over.
I'm stunned. I'm stunned we didn't just take our momentum and be happy and not build. Um, okay. Well, I'm gonna go. I can't even remember where I was. I'm stunned that we went for that attack.
I'm not, and I'll tell you why, David. Because when you check that many attacks in a row, when you've checked that many attacks already, your mentality has to be there's no way I'm going to check another one, right? I've already seen so many attacks, especially if we have like 4 or 5 attacks in our hand, right? And we want to discard, like it looks like we got a feral shriek in our hand. So there was opportunities there to get a better hand, and you gotta feel like you had a good shot at checking a 5 there after all the attacks we've already dumped into our discard pile.
Yeah, but this definitely puts Mikasa on like uneven footing here because we mentioned I saw Barlow in the chat saying that this could be pretty dependent, this matchup, on who goes first, because Amajiki is pretty susceptible early to long Mikasa strings. But now Mikasa's not established and will be going into turn 3 with only 2 foundations. So Amajiki now gets some momentum. We get to put our claw stopper in momentum and a nice build, making us have quadruple the number of foundations despite going second.
Yeah, so we're at a point where between Amajiki, Broken Psyche, and Vast Hybrid, dealing significant damage is going to be pretty tough. If Amajiki happens to have a breaker block. So claw stopper attack there really makes me feel like it's the only attack we had, or at least the only attack that doesn't require a ton of momentum to be very useful, once we add it to our momentum, maybe. But I want to hold that breaker block because my opponent is going to keep attacking me. They're going to keep checking bad, and they don't have the resources to play through even a breaker one. So I think that I Oh, so this is interesting. Sorry, I got stun locked for a second because I forgot the errata on Mikasa does allow you to discard a card on your first attack if it's not a weapon, and you'll get the speed bonus for playing the ability, but you don't have to clear the card. That is something Mikasa couldn't do before because you would automatically abort the attack that you had just played. So that's a very cool addition, and that's another good reason why maybe you don't want to play mono weapons in the Mikasa deck.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. And Ricochet Charge is going to be one of these attacks that can bounce itself from the card pool, even if it's not a weapon.
Yeah, that's true too, right? It's got that fabled text that if it's not blocked, it gets to leave the card pool. The stun 2, this was one of my favorite set 2 cards. Playing this in Genki Kaminari, getting stun 2, threatening to target stun 1, and then also having some card pool clear. And if you block it and it stays in my card pool, it becomes momentum later. I have a very big soft spot for this card, but it looks like it's going to get warped to another dimension.
And there it goes. I am surprised that we discarded that card. I know we did it to get the 2 damage to like added on to it, but I don't think there was any world in which that attack was going to deal damage. And now I guess we could play that Electric Moth, get some more cards, and then build out from there.
Hey, we did it. We checked the 5 to play an attack. That's our first one of the game.
It is possible. That's because we checked a 5 on that one because we have a max rarity alternate art Electric Moth. And when you play with the max rarity version of a card, everything goes better.
I don't know if that's true, but it certainly helps when you get the shine on your opponent's eyes. It distracts them for a minute, throws them off their game.
Every time I see this alternate art Electric Moth, I just think of like Butterfree. Oh well.
Yeah, that's fair. Which we can actually say because it's an unofficial stream.
That's true, and we're taking this one. We're choosing not to block this one. It looks like we used our damage reduction. So we've got some damage on the board. So if we build from here, we can take it as momentum, or we can just keep going.
I think it's finally time to build. We're building a 3 diff. Okay, I was afraid we were going to check a 2 there. But at the same time, we're not seeing any defensive cards hit the board. And now that Amajiki has access to Vast Hybrid's damage pump and just one singular starting momentum, we can absolutely get things ramped up. One momentum turns into 2 momentum. If we get a 3rd momentum, that's easily enough damage to deal 18 to a 7-hander with absolutely no defense.
Yeah, and that heroic passion means that when we commit it with Mikasa to draw a card, now we get to draw 2 cards instead of 1. So it gives us some solid abilities to dig into our deck. I can't remember what that Nejire 2 difficulty foundation does. What is that? That is Surge? Is that the give something EX2?
That should be Levitate. I'm 90% sure. It might be Surge. If I could see the block mod on it, I would know. But it's Levitate. Levitate says after you block with a foundation, once per turn, you can draw a card and discard a card. And you can discard a momentum and mill cards from the top of your deck until you discard a foundation and you add that foundation to your hand.
Okay, so we have some pretty solid. We have a pretty solid momentum out here.
Yeah, it's Levitate's one of those funny cards that is spend a momentum to get guaranteed card advantage for a random card, which sounds like just drawing a card, and yet it's so different. I'm surprised there's not more chaos discard pile strategies that are playing at least one of it, right? You get to mill a lot of cards occasionally with it. Usually you're going to mill exactly one card though, right? The most of the
Mhm.
cards in your deck are going to be a foundation. Um, but it's one you don't see too often.
Yeah, we have a tentacle grasp out here, which is a throw on the Amajiki side. And it looks like we did put the Amajiki damage on it because it's a 1 speed 9 damage move.
Yep, we're going to take the half block here with Mikasa's admission. And then we're at 13. Does Amajiki have a follow up? It looks like we do. We're doing a little bit of math here, deciding if we want to respond with Ryukyu agency trainees. Talk about underrated foundations. Ryukyu agency trainees is a card that people disrespect a lot. And when you get to build a second vast hybrid, this is what I was talking about, David.
This is
One momentum becomes two momentum, becomes three momentum.
Yeah, this is a very, very neat line. Agency trainees into vast hybrid. Now we get to send it to momentum. Everything gets even more damage off our next form. It helps our checks. Very cool build.
Ooh, this is one of my favorite cards that got reprinted. Rapid Speed Slash is a nasty 4 low 4, and I'm just gonna say it. Nobody was playing this in their Amajikis before Vegas, right? This is when we saw the Amajiki weapons deck kind of really burst onto the scene, and 4 low 4 draw a card or get a momentum just seemed, and it's still got the mid breaker block. So it is everything Claw Stopper wants to be and more.
We are levitating. And curious about Quirks, a 3 mid block. That's probably not going to help us out here. One of the best things about Rapid Speed Slash is it's typically like the best attack to put your Amajiki damage on because it has that EX3. It can be your finisher in a lot of decks. Um, put your Amajiki damage on it, EX it to the moon. They can't block it. You win the game. But in this kind of situation, we kind of wish it had powerful 3 because we already put our Amajiki damage on the throw,
Correct.
which if we had any sort of powerful move in hand, this could very easily be a kill turn. But just adding the damage onto the throw tells me that this is likely a get some solid pokes in and once again build.
Yeah, it's not surprising to put the big damage pump on the throw, get that guaranteed damage, and then you can, see what your rival's doing from there. I think at this point, the only mistake you could really make as Amajiki is committing out to not present lethal. There's almost no reason to continue attacking here unless we have something that presents a lethal amount of damage. And the fact that we did not add Vast Hybrid to our momentum for a second time tells me that we're going to chill out for right now. We're going to keep the foundation our stage. We're going to get that damage pump later, and we can add it to our momentum when we need to. If we were pushing for game, I'd have to assume that would have gotten added to our momentum for the +1 to the check and the extra, spending of the momentum.
Yeah, we definitely could have pushed for lethal there. Had we not put the damage on the throw, you put the damage on the rapid speed slash, you would have had an extra 3 damage from the extra vast hybrid, the one that you got from speed slash. You can unflip it with Amajiki. That would also allow you to dig a little deeper with Claw Stopper. I see we have a dimensional sphere in hand. We could have played that, seen if we draw into something more. Like there was a
But
line where you could Amajiki could have potentially found lethal, but I think he's feeling that okay, with -6 damage on my character and a broken psyche and a sphere in hand, I'm probably safe.
however, we got that vast hybrid from the Ryukyu agency trainees. That only works if our rival blocks. If we don't put the Amajiki damage on the 3 damage throw, does our rival even bother blocking it?
That's true. That's true.
It's one of those things where there's a lot of different ways you can navigate a turn. And one of the beautiful things about universes is that it's very rarely ever deterministic. It is almost always a branching path where something could have gone wrong, something could have gone more right. Players could always have made different choices. Now, it's not always that way. Of course, sometimes you're just in an unfailable game state. But speaking of unfailable, we are committing two foundations to play another Overwatch trigger. I just have to hope that we have something explosive to follow this up with, because we're down to two ready foundations again. And if we want our deck to function, we're going to need our character ready. I don't think Mikasa is a character you can afford to commit very often, if at all, really, when trying to win the game.
Yeah, I did see some gas in the hand, and so if we can just check rolling fives from here on out, we might be able to do it. I see, yeah, we've got like 5 attacks in hand. This Overwatch trigger is actually a really, really good card in the eroded version of Mikasa. It is a weapon. It draws a card if it's the only card in your card pool, which it always will be because oh, and here we got a second one, and we actually do it. We checked the 5. Um, which is this
Okay.
is gonna draw us another card, which is gonna help us keep clearing our card pool, and it's a pretty good, solid damage move that gets very, very fast early on, so Mikasa helps things get fast later on, but this is a really good starting move, um, so that you don't have to start with, like, super slow moves and build up, you can just keep that high speed throughout your strings, so very, very good card in this character.
Yeah, luckily for our Amajiki player, though, we've managed to hold more than two cards. This isn't going to get blisteringly fast, but it's still probably more, more speed than you really want to deal with. Um, the days of release are long gone. Repeatable speed hate is not super plentiful on this symbol, but it looks like we do still have a little bit of that adaptability if we need to, because this is up to 7 speed now, and we've only got +1 to our check from Vast Hybrid.
Yeah, and we have so we have Amajiki, correct? We got that dice on Amajiki. Here comes the sphere. Were you opting to use the sphere on a mid attack? A little interesting of a choice here. Check a 3 on it. That puts us down to basically just Broken Psyche in hand because I doubt we can block again. I mean, basically, we just have Broken Psyche as our defense, right? If we've used Amajiki, and we've exhausted our last block, then it's just Broken Psyche from here.
Yeah, I was a little confused for a second. We committed the adaptable. That one gives plus speed, not minus speed. So I was thinking of, I think it's Sun Eater of the big three. So committing that one makes sense because we actually don't have any speed reduction, but we do still have Broken Psyche to reduce damage from one big move. And other than that, I think we're in the danger zone, David.
I think we are too. It might come back to haunt us that we didn't push for lethal on our last turn. Also, it was an interesting choice to remove the attack with Dimensional Sphere. We had a full block anyway. Um, and so we allowed Mikasa to have a little bit safer of a check there. We checked a 5 anyway, so it ultimately didn't matter. But just one of those interesting game decisions being made.
So the difference between the one progressive difficulty versus allowing Mikasa to pump the speed, I think is a big deal. Because again, if Mikasa plays a weapon and discards a card, it's not optional. You have to, it's just after you play an attack, clear one weapon card from your card pool. So you cannot discard the card for speed unless you are going to discard a weapon card from your card pool or you have no weapon cards. So getting rid of the other card, the other weapon in the card pool, does prevent you from getting the speed pump with Mikasa. But I'm with you. We've been winning this game this whole time because our rival can't pass checks. Helping them pass checks does not sound like the way to go.
And we just stacked their deck with a 3 from Quick Draw. Add 1 card from your rival's discard pile to the top of their deck. The next time they lose health during this attack, draw 1 card.
Now we do still have access to the once per game. Ooh, we draw an attack off the top. That's going to be very helpful. We're going to draw 2 more cards.
Oh, double gray. I still think we have the attacks in hand we need to win. We have a Luna to Harris, which is going to be that's just a free to check. Double Lady Nagant 4 diff. I'm a little surprised we committed our foundation since we already have the attacks in hand.
Yeah, I don't know what the plan was if it wasn't to just check 5s. I mean, that looks like those are the Lady Nagant attacks that clear themselves. We're just going to build out. We're going to give Amajiki another turn.
No, this is reconsider. This is reconsider, right?
The one that clears from the card pool and we draw and discard a card. Okay.
And we just got the 3 check out of the way. And we drew an attack. We're geniuses.
Okay, how many attacks are left in this deck? Because it can't be many. We're getting thin on the deck. There can't be another bad check left in the deck, right?
Go for it. Go for it. I feel like Alice just needs the confidence here to put down the orange after getting burned early.
Here we go. I think it's about to happen. One of my favorites, I think we have a flash attack in hand too. So if you get to a point where the only defense left is Broken Psyche and the rival feels pretty safe at 4 health, speaking of safe at 4 health, here's Luna to Harris. If you want to block this attack, you're going to lose half your momentum as Amajiki. That's not going to feel very good at all. And because of the Dimensional Sphere, because of the Reconsider, this is a very cheap attack. It's a guaranteed check. And we are going to discard an attack, it looks like, to clear our card pool with Mikasa, get some speed on this throw. But the most important thing is, if we want to do anything other than use our Broken Psyche here, we're going to end up losing 2 of our 4 momentum, which we've pretty much only got 1 to spare.
Yeah. And yeah, if we use the Broken Psyche too, we go down a momentum and then we lose. It goes rounded up. So if we go to 3 momentum, we're still going to lose 2 more.
Well, you only lose the momentum if you block. If you Broken Psyche, I doubt we're blocking.
Oh, I see. If you block. I don't think we're blocking again this turn for sure.
We're asking if Dimensional Sphere blocks a throw, do I take half damage? The answer is no, of course, because it will get removed before the damage step. So we do have another Dimensional Sphere to hand. We basically just told our rival that we do, but David, how are we going to block a 6-speed move?
Yeah, so here comes the Broken Psyche. This is going to take us down to 9 damage. How much damage is the Lady Nagant 4 diff becomes the question. We have that flash move. What is it?
It's a 4 damage move.
So we got to check. Oh, we did not clear Quick Draw.
Did we discard for the Mikasa speed? Is Quick Draw just ranged?
Quick Draw's got to be a weapon. We got a gun on it. Yeah, it's a weapon. We just chose not to clear it.
You can't choose not to clear it.
Right. I don't think we discarded for it. I think we just.
I'm not sure what's happening anymore.
We're just building.
We are just going to build out from here. So, yeah, I think we missed our own Mikasa ability there because we had 6 speed. We had a bunch of speed pumped on it. And I'm pretty sure I saw... Again, what's weird about it is it's not a choice, right? The Mikasa ability just says clear one weapon card. So it's not even a choice that you could or could not make. And I'm wondering if we forgot to clear our card pool and that made us think that we couldn't pass any more attacks, when in reality, we had the ability to completely clear our card pool and play on a 5 and then a 4.
Yeah, it should have been discarded because I do remember that Luna Tejaris did get the speed, and the speed you can only get the speed if you have
If you
discarded the
discard.
card. So, I think we just misdid it, and then we just rolled. I don't know. I suspect there's not, since this is not an official stream. I suspect there's not a stream judge here looking at every single play being made.
No, I wouldn't assume so either.
I was thinking maybe it was that Mikasa just wanted to get that momentum and build, and they just didn't want to go for it. But there was there was definitely a check 3 5s in a row and you get it.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. I mean, there's definitely a lot of different ways we could have played out the end of that turn. I for sure thought that the flash attack was going to be our path to victory there, sequencing around the broken psyche and things like that. But we see it coming out as a partial block against a vast hybrid chimera kraken, which is going to spell absolute disaster here. This one's definitely going to be lethal. It's definitely going to be fast. Or at least Mikasa is committed out so much that 4 speed +1 in the card pool is probably too fast to block. I can't think of a +0 block mod that we would be running.
No, I think our only out to living here was to block the attack that Amajiki puts the damage on, and then just pray that they don't have more than 3.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to have the right block zone in the first place, right? It looks like we don't even have the requisite high block.
Yeah, they actually cannot freeze that foundation because you have to commit and freeze it.
Yeah, that's. I don't know when, if and when the other one was committed or not, but that is also not how Vast Hybrid Chimera Kraken works. Which, for the record, I will always say that that doesn't make sense, considering we pride ourselves on being a do as much as you can game. I understand why it doesn't work, but I don't agree with it. You know,
Mhm.
I think all abilities should be worded so that if you want it to be conditional, you should just put the condition, right? Like, if choose a foundation, commit it. If it was committed, freeze it. It's a lot of extra words, but if it makes things work copacetic with the idea that it is a do as much as you can game, I would be much more in favor of it, because it's very frustrating the way that some abilities work when Vast Hybrid does not.
Absolutely. I know that ruling drives true players crazy. But
Yeah.
there we have it. They picked up the cards. Amajiki gets the win. I feel like that round was like a you got to finish your food round. We had Amajiki get pull away. I felt like when they could have actually swung for lethal by committing to it a little more. And then we had Mikasa pulling away when they could have swung for lethal. And then Amajiki finally gets it. So a little bit of like timidness, I guess, in our first game here, but that's to be expected of your first game at a regional.
I would call it overly respectful. I think one of the things that the North American region does better than other regions is disrespect their opponent, force them to have it. A lot of times players are eager to use their defensive abilities, and it's fairly rare, I would say, that you find someone who is really truly patient with them, because it feels bad when the opponent pivots and you don't get to use the defensive ability that you were taking all this damage to bait. But whenever I watch UK and Oceania streams, it seems like the players really respect each other's defense, and they really expect something to go right for the rival. When it comes down to it, in that situation, you have to kind of expect you to check a 5 and your rival to check a 5. And I believe if those two things are true, then Mikasa would have won, right? Mikasa would have been in a crazy position to win a game after building two foundations, then not building any foundations, and then only building like two more foundations at a time.
Yeah, and that turn could have gone completely different if on turn 2 we elected to build instead of throw out the second attack there. But is there anything you would sideboard for these matchups? Like Amajiki, I think like siding a runaway could be pretty good to disrupt Mikasa's constant clearing.
I know one card that got tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of attention the day it was revealed, and then everyone forgot about it because it was one of the first reveals. It's a secret rare from Attack on Titan 1. Do you know which card I'm talking about? It would solve this matchup for Amajiki almost single-handedly.
No. Is it the action?
Fortitude of the Armored Titan. It is a +0 block, which helps you out if you really need that mode. But now that Mikasa requires cards to have the weapon keyword to leave the card pool, if you play Fortitude of the Armored Titan on the first weapon attack, it loses all keywords. So it will lose the weapon keyword and attacks your rival plays, gets +1 difficulty for the whole turn. So not only can Mikasa not clear that one progressive difficulty, all of their attacks get +1 difficulty on top of that, making it basically impossible for you to play your Mikasa deck correctly, right? It makes it impossible to do your game plan. So that's a card that if you're not sideboarding, you should be sideboarding because it solves lots and lots of matchups. It makes risky encounters harder to play. And any character that is keyword gated suffers greatly unless they have like a first enhance that they can do before you do the Fortitude of the Armored Titan.
That's very neat. That's one of those actions that I did not believe in. I did not believe in early. I felt like it was too heavily costed, but post errata Mikasa definitely is even more susceptible to it being gated to the weapon keyword for the clear. But speaking of Fortitude, I really like the Fortitude of the Mikasa player going on their build turn on turn 1, going for a 3 difficulty foundation when they're running a bajillion 2 checks.
You just got to believe, David. You got to believe that the 2 check not only doesn't exist, but that it will never harm you.
And it's a 3 difficulty that solves our damage problem here. If it's the first attack, it gets 4 damage. So we can put some serious speed potentially on this trigger and then give it damage.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to do that. I don't know if we're going to make this so fast and so powerful that's really punishing. If our rival commits out to block this attack, though, we're in a delicious opportunity to steal a quick game too, because again, Mikasa just has to check well, right? The number of foundations really doesn't matter as long as we draw weapon attacks and we sequence them properly. So any moment in which you commit out against Mikasa could be your last.
Yeah, we've got the chat saying that Amajiki's about to get shot in the head here.
Well, no, we're not playing Connie.
Which I can only say because this is an unofficial stream. All right, Ricochet charge. Look at this, 2 5 checks. This game is already going so much better. And we elected to take that trigger. So that +4 damage coming in hot here, already down to 13 health.
Yeah, we get the Mikasa clear. Going to get a bonus speed. We're going to get stunned too. So we didn't want to commit out to block the first attack, which I think was smart. But now we might get committed out by the stun keyword, meaning we might regret not blocking that opener.
Yeah, I mean, that was almost certainly the highest damage attack of the turn. So, like, that would be the attack that is the best to block. But I wonder if there was some fear of committing down Amajiki. if we checked poorly on it.
All right, we're gonna see if this one leaves the card pool. Last time they blocked with a dimensional sphere. Speaking of, that's gonna be our check. So we end up fully committed out, but this gets locked in the card pool. We have we can't use Mikasa to clear this attack though, because it is not a weapon. So we would need something like a sniping spy if we wanted to continue being aggressive.
Sniping spy.
Yeah, I've been doing commentary too long, huh?
Yeah, you got that Tony Romo call the next play skill.
Don't compare me to Tony Romo.
You could probably play quarterback better.
I can definitely pass better. I don't know if I can butt fumble better.
Yeah, but here we have a free clear. We don't have to discard a card to clear anymore. And then it becomes a 5. Let's see, it would get 2 damage. It would just be a nice 5/5 free clear your card pool.
Did we?
It looks like we did elect to discard a card though. So it is 8 speed now.
But if we discarded a card, we have to discard the sniping spy from our card pool.
You are absolutely right, and they did not do that. I'm not sure it would have mattered anyway. 5 speed with 1 in the card pool probably isn't getting blocked.
We're gonna hope so. We're gonna hope that this is a non-deterministic mistake, but it is also one that I hope gets kind of corrected soon, because it is a little frustrating, and it would be I'm sure it would be very annoying for the Mikasa player to go up a game to win games, playing it this way, and then later on in the tournament find out, right? Like, to have any amount of success before getting it corrected could be very, very punishing, because it's interesting because we recognize that we don't clear the non-weapons, but we're not recognizing that it's not optional, that you have to clear a weapon card from your card pool. So yeah, very, very very unfortunate.
Yeah, ultimately I really don't think it's going to matter in the game.
Yeah, I'm hoping not.
But we'll see. We are at, I think, we're going to play this attack. It's going to deal half of Amajiki's life. And then if we check another 5, we win the game. I think we're basically just on check a 5 and win.
It depends. I think the last card in our hand is only 3 speed.
Right. But because of that discard earlier and other things, it's going to be such a high speed.
We don't have a card to discard, David.
You're right. We don't have
a card to discard because we discarded inappropriately earlier. So not only did we not need the speed earlier, but we've actively hurt ourselves. Luckily, it's a flash attack. We're not happy about this flash attack. I don't think we have a +1 block mod, because if we did, this would be simply check a 5 and live.
Yeah, it's 3 speed, right? 3 speed +1 for that. 4. We have a 1, so it's just check a 5.
Yeah, easy. Check a 5. We live.
There you go. Now try to deal 23 on 3 foundations.
Well,
Mikasa is literally saying, "Kill me if you can. I doubt you can do it."
yeah, I don't think we got a malicious advantage from the misunderstood response. So, if anything, if this hurts the Mikasa player, then I would say it's no harm, no foul, right? But I do hope that someone just kind of gets word out that it's not optional, just to avoid issues in the future. But with 1 momentum, do you think Amajiki can deal 23 here on this turn?
Wouldn't surprise me if we check rolling 5s, but I will say, just to roll it back a little bit, if we had not discarded a card for that sniping spy, we win the game. We would have had an extra card in hand. We could have given our flash attack speed, and it would have been unblockable. And the sniping spy at 5 speed was already unblockable.
Right, right, exactly. So
So it actually just hurt us that we did it.
right, and that's so that in the future that will help them out, right, later in later matches, and that's really all you want. You just want everyone to be playing the game the same way, under the understood rules. So we do get a pretty aggressive build, I think, versus this Mikasa deck, especially if you're not building speed hate. It's not necessarily wrong to build out down to only 2 or 3 cards, but I think given our health total, we have to have more than 2 because the damage reduction might not be enough depending on which attacks get played, though they should be. We've seen almost exclusively 4 damage moves, but we also know that we have to deal with flash attacks, so we can't rely on the damage reduction solely. And we know that there's more than one zone being played, right? There's not just a spam of only mid attacks. So this could be pretty difficult to navigate. And again, if Mikasa checks well, this should be very easy to wrap up.
Yeah, and we're looking at an angry hand here. I want to say we have 5 attacks. One of them's a sniping spy. We got a moth. We have a Luna Tejeras. This should just be game with some good checks.
Okay, Electric Moth. We love Electric Moth. We're a deck that wants to discard cards that help us draw more cards, and this is one of the best discard a card and draw more cards.
Yeah, and every single move is saying a half block is lethal. So we get to zero out 1 attack, and then we have to block everything, and it's going to get harder and harder to block.
We cannot afford a partial block.
Okay, we cannot discard here, and we did not discard. We've learned.
All right. But we do have Sniping Spy to clear from our card pool for us, which is tight. I think that this is very cool. I love the fact that we're not 100% in on only weapons, right? We're mixing in cards that we saw from the traditional Mikasa list, and and we're seeing, like the gaps that needed to be filled by non-weapons be filled in interesting ways. I love the flash attack, not only because having flash in your deck is a boon to your offense, but I love the fact that you can add it to your card pool and it becomes +2 or -2 damage, which is very underrated, I feel.
Especially in a deck like this that's just, Mikasa decks can play a million attacks that are unblockable, but most of them are very tiny. Yeah, the flash move is putting in a lot of work here. And it should be noted that we are getting, let me do a count here. We have already had 18 weapon attacks and Attack on Titan Origins of Power on Mikasa's symbols revealed. So this is a character that could be coming back in a big way and is showing off that with the right deck build is still very capable of killing you. So Mikasa takes one down. We're into 1-1 going into game 3.
Yep, we finally get to see Amajiki go first. It'll be very interesting to see the builds. Amajiki has had a pretty solid build going second, which is not surprising, right? You get the extra card, you get the better mulligan. But what I really want to see is I want to see Mikasa get a 5 build, a 6 build out, because Amajiki very rarely, if ever, is threatening to turn to you. I know there are some City Rampage aficionados in the broadcast, so maybe it's more possible than I think. But I think you can play a little disrespectfully early into this Amajiki and try to just get a ton of resources rather than keeping the aggression up turn after turn after turn. That's what you want to do going first. I think going second, Mikasa should just double build. Make sure you hold blocks for the more threatening zones. You know, you want to block the vast hybrids. So far, Amajiki's only played one attack per turn, unless we were trying to win the game, right? So disrespect the offense, get yourself 10 foundations, and then become unfailable. Get to an unfailable game state where you can play all the attacks in your hand.
Yeah, that will be interesting to see if Mikasa makes that adjustment, because game 1 and game 2, Mikasa was definitely just see orange, play orange. Even if we only build 2 or 3 on our first turn, we're going for it.
Which, again, you know, both games, there was a lot of reasons to go for it. And I think a little bit better sequencing, right? We kind of shot ourselves in the foot right at the end there. A little bit better sequencing in game 2, we would have taken it even sooner. So this Mikasa deck has legs. It's a real deck. It's a real part of this format. And, you know, a little bit tightening up, a little bit of tuning up on the plays. And I think we've got a legitimate contender to take down the whole event.
If an 8x 2-check deck takes down this entire event, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be. It very much would be. I'm waiting for them to make better 2-checks. Farewell between friends is close. Pressing the advantage is close. But I need that 2-check that's like, it's like, I need it to be like Spirit Gun Mega, but with EX.
And yeah, we just hit the 2-check at the exact wrong time there on a 4 for our 4th card. That could hurt us pretty significantly as this game goes on.
Yeah, choosing to never respect the 2-check can't be the right strategy. I joke a lot about players who say that it'll never happen to them and they just completely ignore it as if you can't ever check the 2. And I understand that mentality in a lot of situations. Turn 1 going second, probably never one of them.
Yeah, if there was a line where we could have played that 4th card on a 3 to where even if we check a 2, we can commit Mikasa to pay for it and then
she
go on a 5.
She doesn't do anything on defense anyways, right?
Yeah. We're blocking with the reconsider here, even though it's the throw, and we didn't add the Amajiki damage to it, if I'm correct, which means that's kind of like a telltale sign that another attack is coming out to put the damage on.
And we still, well, that's a claw stopper.
Oh, that's a claw stopper. Okay.
This is the throw.
Never mind. They both have Amajiki's face on them.
Yeah, it's pretty pixelated on our end. It's actually very beautiful on the stream, but in the video feed, it's a little rough. I'm actually watching the official stream, or the unofficial stream, I should say. I'm watching the actual stream.
Yeah. The 1 speed on this, though, does allow us to get another block in.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's guaranteed damage versus harder to block. And I think this played out exactly how Amajiki wanted. And I think that this played out as best as it could for Mikasa. So
yeah, disaster for the Mikasa would have been if the Amajiki drew into like double Chimera Kraken or something and froze down 2/3 of our stage.
Yeah, exactly. Or if we had just taken full damage from the Claw Stopper because we checked a 3, being afraid of like a longer string, and then the only thing left was the throw that you can always block because it's 1 speed. We do have Electric Moth, one of the best openers, but given the way that Mikasa works now, opening with a non-weapon attack can be kind of sketchy if we don't have a sniping spy or, you know, some other way to clear our card pool. However, we have the opportunity to build a foundation that can do so with Ryukyu agency trainees if this attack gets blocked. So we've seen Ryukyu agency trainees on both sides of the board now. It was fairly impactful for Amajiki, but what does Mikasa have to build?
Hey, but Amajiki just did our card pool clearing for us, which has us check a 2 on a 5. This is probably going to be the last attack of the turn. That means we are going to get to draw a card because of the dimensional sphere removing something. It is going to get 5 speed from itself. So I suspect we're going to get some momentum out of this, but then it's probably going to be a build out from there.
If only we had done the Ryukyu agency trainees to build a foundation.
That would have been big.
Granted, you never know. I like to save Ryukyu agency trainees for things like breaker blocks, right? For things that might hack my next check and I can play around it. So I understand it, especially since.
Oh, I told you. You were saying let's just build and have things become unfailable, but this Mikasa does not know how to just build. We play the attacks.
They are not getting paid by the hour. That's for sure. They've got a game plan. They're sticking to it. And this is typically how you see success with Mikasa is you just power through. You power through, you check well, you put your opponent into bad guessing game situations where they have to figure out, are you going to keep checking well? How many attacks do you have left? You know, did I use my defensive abilities too soon? You know, is something that you have to worry about against Mikasa, because as long as the card pool is getting cleared, it doesn't really matter how many foundations you have ready.
Yeah, I think we would just love to go ahead and use this and get the broken psyche out of the way, but it looks like we are going to get a full block and keep the broken psyche ready. I don't think recovery time has breaker 1, does it? No, we are playing a reconsider, not to build, but to draw, and now we're going to have to discard.
Yeah, when you block with recovery time, it does have breaker 1.
I think we're going to go for this Luna. We're just trying to get through that broken psyche. We are going
making Amajiki spend momentum defensively so they can't have it for offense is a very good strategy. And this is a great way to get rid of the broken psyche, but we didn't have enough cards leave our card pool. That attack was still on a 5.
Was it? We had reconsider leave. We had 2 attacks leave. It should have been on a 4. Right? Reconsider left, dimensional sphere made an attack leave, and then we had the one that we cleared.
Oh, did we clear one on our own? I thought we had just played Electric Moth and Reconsider.
Well, because we had gone Electric Moth into Overwatch trigger into quick draw.
Oh, the Overwatch trigger. You're right. Well, maybe
yeah, that should have been on a 4, and we could have committed Mikasa to pass it.
Yeah, because the breaker got eaten by the Reconsider.
Right.
Very interesting.
And that would have at least gotten the broken psyche out of the way, or just, yeah, I think you probably broken psyche it since it's 7 damage.
Is Tahira's a card that says leaves or cleared? It's for each card that left. Yeah, so it counts for any reason. Interesting.
Yeah, I think we missed the sphere removing.
Yeah.
And I suspect we have a dead Mikasa here, but we'll just see.
We can very easily push for game from this position. if we check 2 5s. I don't think that's what we're going for, though, considering the order in which we played these attacks.
You think Amajiki's happy to build from here? That is what we are doing. Did we use the Amajiki damage pump? I don't see a dice on Amajiki.
Yeah, that's true. Normally they use the little exclamation marker there. I think those are actually counters from Star Wars Unlimited. I could be wrong. They could be the ones from the class reunion boxes.
Yeah, if we had not used Amajiki there, the rapid speed slash definitely just presented lethal because we could have added 5 damage with Amajiki and then EX'd it and that gets to 9. Surely we just used Amajiki and didn't mark it.
Yeah. And I think the current health total on Mikasa represents that, right? Because we played a 3 damage move and brought them all the way down to 9.
Okay. Sometimes I wonder if adding the Amajiki damage to the throw, it feels like it's been pretty automatic this round, but I'm not sure it should be because Amajiki should be adding the damage to something that's going to entirely deal instead of just half deal. If you can choose,
I think given the board state, that's where I'm looking, right? I'm looking to maximize my damage, but the most common way to when you're opting to play the 3 diff throw, it is one of the most common attacks that you're going to put the reliable damage pump on while you're poking away. So I think we just got stuck on our autopilot. This is kind of what we always do, when in reality, if we adjust where we put that damage, we'll get a lot more of it through.
Yeah, and here we are using the Ryukyu, which means we get a heroic passion to draw some more. We don't get to clear this.
So this one gets dimensional sphered. So this one's funny because you can respond as turn player before the rival.
Very true. So what does this one do? If it's blocked, what happens?
So after this attack is blocked, you add to your momentum after it resolves. The issue is it says you add it after it resolves. The dimensional sphere removes it immediately.
Right. So even though you respond first, it ultimately doesn't matter because it never resolves.
Correct. It never even resolves, but you do get to respond first. It just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I think we were hoping for that to deal so that we get heroic passion draw 2. We are opting to hold some foundations in hand instead of building them out.
It's looking pretty bad for Mikasa, not making any headway on that turn. And Amajiki has gotten to like that late stage momentum. We talked about it before the match started. You don't want to let Amajiki get comfortable and get into that late game territory. Once we've got all that momentum stacked up, it gets very difficult to navigate dealing damage, finding weaknesses, finding openings. And we also have so much momentum. Here it is. An EX move should definitely win the game here.
And if this one doesn't win the game, we have another rapid speed slash. I see no world in which double rapid speed slash doesn't just wrap this thing up.
Yeah, I would be it would have to be our choice. It would have to be our choice as the Amajiki player to not end the game here.
Yeah, we can take this thing to 23 speed if we desire between Black Abyss itself and the momentum, but we're opting to let this one get blocked, and then we'll follow up with the lethal one. And the throws kind of mean that Mikasa has to block these ones, because as Mikasa, you would like this one just to go through, but because you kind of expect the throw to get all the damage piled onto it, you feel kind of obligated to full block everything at 9 health.
Right, and now we see another one. So if there was any hesitation, any footsies we wanted to play, this one has got to be lethal.
Dump the momentum. Dump the momentum. Oh, we landed an attack in our momentum, and now we can unflip it with Amajiki. The Vast Hybrid in momentum. Over under 35 speed.
It's got to be under, right? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 22, 23 speed.
Oh, but we hit a Black Abyss.
26 speed, 27 speed, 28 speed, 29 speed, 30 speed. Oh, I think we can get this to exactly 30.
Yeah. The rapid speed slash hit a Black Abyss, and then
we
got
31. If we did the Black Abyss, is there a Vast Hybrid air momentum?
There is.
Then it's over 30 speed.
Oh, no.
It can be over 30 speed, I should say. We are very much going through the motions here.
Okay, let's see what this number gets to.
Look at the joy on the Amajiki player's face. I love the face cams. When he was counting up all the momentum for the damage and the speed.
Where did it get? I see a 3. I don't see the second number.
36? It should be like 30, 38. Jeez.
We got over.
Got way over. I didn't realize that there was a Vast Hybrid. We got way over because of those Black Abysses getting flipped, right? The one Black Abyss went from adding 1 speed to being able to add like 4 speed because of our ability to unflip a second copy. So very cool stuff. We do see Amajiki take it down round 1. Unfortunate for our Mikasa player. I felt like they were really close. They just respected their opponent a little bit too much.
I also feel like if they had taken kind of your advice before the game and built to 10 foundations, we could have had a different game there. It just felt like every turn they were pushing. And there just never was the foundation base to justify more than one thing going wrong.
Yeah, it looks like the Mikasa deck doesn't have a backup plan, right? There's no plan B. There's no other speed at which we're trying to play the game. And when your plan A doesn't work out, everything falls apart pretty quickly. But we got to see a 30 speed, 20 damage, almost one-shottable move in round 1. So what are the rest of the rounds going to have in store for us, David?
Yeah, we'll just have to see. I saw someone in the chat saying, "Oh, there's only 12 players here," but I'm telling you, every single deck is very good. I'm not seeing a single deck that I think is like a weak link here.
And on top of that, it is by definition the most diverse regional we've ever had.
That's true.
We've got the character breakdown for you. If you're good at math, you already knew this breakdown. Every single character taking up an equal slice of the pie, 8.3% out of the 12 players. But these are all the characters you can expect to see from this event. We are going to get as many different characters on stream as we can for you guys. So 12 unique decks, lots of different symbols. I don't have the symbol breakdown immediately in front of me, but I'm very certain that we got more than just the 6 attuned symbols here. So very, very cool stuff. I'm very excited. What do you want to see next in the tournament, David?
Okay, what I most want to see is if we have 4 rounds of Swiss, cut to top 4 and 2 rounds of top cuts, that's 6 rounds. I want to see the stream get every single character on stream go a perfect 6 for 6 on new characters versus other new characters. That's what I most want to see. But let me take a look. Let me take a look here. We saw the Mikasa. I honestly, and this is going to sound so cringe, I would like to see overhaul.
I knew you were gonna say it when you said cringe. I knew you were talking about overall. You're just an Young fan.
I am a New Young fan. Because he beat me. Because when we were both testing for Worlds, he beat me the day before. And anytime somebody beats me, I immediately they just level up, in my mind. So but I want to see the new moves that Overhaul has, because Overhaul was completely absent in Atlanta. But how about you? Which one do you want to see?
Well, I wanted to see the Amajiki in action. We got that out of the way. I wanted to see Mikasa because I like some card pull clearing. So I guess for me, it's Bakugo 4. That's the character I'm most excited to see and, kind of speculate on how other people play the character. So I got to say Bakugo 4 would be my pick. You out there in the chat, you got more control than ever on an unofficial stream. You guys let us know who you want to see next, but we are going to try to keep it as fresh and as diverse as we can as we go.
Yeah, and I just want to say a quick goodbye to everybody. I jumped on. I'm going to be a one and done today. Sam's going to be joined by Chris Bromley and Barrett Bryant. I am taking off. I'm going with my family to a pumpkin patch. But I will be watching from my phone and joining everybody in the chat as we all cheer on people and also jeer when something goes terribly and a 3 is checked at a wrong time. But I'll be joining the crowds and letting you take it from here.
You should make a jack-o'-lantern of your favorite universe's character.
I am not that artistic. I can make a smiley face.
You got to carve out a jack-o'-lantern of the character you're going to win nationals with.
I'll carve a smiley face and I'll just say that's Mirio.
Carve a smiley face and it's not smiling Titan? What kind of hack are you?
Yeah, I could make a smiling Titan and then just explode it.
Yeah. All right, guys. We're going to take a short break for you. The next round should be up pretty soon. I'm going to get Christopher Bromley in here, and we're going to hunt down a match that you guys want to watch. Don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss a single match of this Oceania Season 3 Regional.